wanted to just share some thoughts that I hope would be, or that I think will be an encouragement. And I'll start with the first slide here. Title is "The Word of God, the Light of the World." Probably sounds familiar to all. I'm going to get into the book of John today and look at that a little bit, and hopefully I'll be able to show you something that you probably haven't seen before, and that will show you that God is showing Himself better yet again. So I wanted to start with this quote from Origen. I'm not sure who's all familiar with these early church fathers, but this is one of the guys from, I think, 1st or 2nd century church. And the quote goes like this: "For whatever be the knowledge which we are able to obtain of God, either by perception or reflection, we must of necessity believe that He is by many degrees far better than we perceive Him to be." I think that's good. That's really good. And coming from somebody like Origen, who this is what's been said about him, is he has been described as the greatest genius to the early church ever produced. So this quote here is actually genius. What doesn't matter what you think of God. It doesn't matter how good your revelation is. I think we've broken some pretty good ground these last couple of years. We've really made some progress in discovering that God is better than we previously thought, and we're continuously climbing that ladder, if you will. And yet we can anticipate this. So I think you can either take this quote in one or two ways. It could be a disclaimer for me. So if I share something and your revelation is actually better than what I've been sharing, and you're further ahead in your discovery of God's goodness than I am, then this is my disclaimer that He's better. Or you can take this as anticipation that you can expect something that'll blow your mind, and that'll bring you to a higher degree of manifestation of freedom. So I'll start with this passage here in John 1, verses 1 to 3. It says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through Him, and without Him nothing was made that was made." A while ago, I heard somebody ask the question what it meant when the Bible says that Jesus is the Word. Why is He described as the Word? What kind of imagery is it supposed to be? And it got my wheels spinning right away. I loved that question. It is one of those that was really good for me to ponder. And so the word here, the Greek word for word is logos, which if you want to understand its entirety, the entirety of that word, it's not just a word. That word means idea. It's an idea. So if the word, the idea, we know that Jesus is that word. Jesus is the idea of God. And you've probably heard it said that everybody gets one really big idea in their lifetime. They've got one really good light bulb moment in their life. And God has a light bulb moment. He's got an epiphany. He's got, oh man, this is it. This is what I'm going to emphasize on. This is going to be my major. And He's got this idea, and this idea was with Him in the beginning. And this idea is not just an idea. It's an idea. This word logos is an idea actualized. It's the idea spoken. So He spoke it. He spoke His idea and made it into reality. So we're about to dive into the idea of all of ideas, if you will. And His idea happened to be made. Well, I'll just keep reading here first. In verse 4 to 5, "In Him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it." I really like what this is saying. So in the beginning was the Word, and then he likens this word, this big idea, to a light, and or life, which is the light. So, and we think about other references to light and God being the light, and how I'm just reminded of John chapter 3 again. It's such a famous passage, but I never really got to soak it in until lately. I've been pondering it, and in verse 18 it talks about, and to him who does not believe, he is condemned already. And I thought, wow, that's terrible news. But because it goes on to say that, I think I have this passage in my phone here, and I'll quickly pull that up. I didn't have it in my notes. Verse 18, it says, he who believes in him is not condemned, but he who does not believe is condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. And this is the condemnation, that the light has come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. So, the issue is this. We saw the light. Jesus became flesh, and he was the light. Sorry. And the light came into the world. And the issue is this, that we didn't want him to be there. The world wasn't ready for him. They were scared of him, actually. It says that the world did not receive him because their deeds were evil, and they thought, oh no, I've got to hide. I'm ashamed. And now the light is here. And that's the issue. We know that Jesus is the light. We know God is the light, but we're afraid of the light. And the darkness could not comprehend it, it says. In verse 10, I'll just jump forward here. I just skipped a few verses that were not really bringing out what I wanted to bring across here. It says, he was in the world, and the world was made through him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God, to those who believe in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. You ever met anybody that knows how to turn anything good into something negative? And whether, like, for me, I've got to admit this for myself, and I think it's probably very common in a lot of us. And we read passages like this, and we think, and all of a sudden we see something negative. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become the children of God, to those who believe in his name. Oh, but woe are those that don't believe. Because then he will not give them the right to become the children of God. That's not good. But it doesn't actually say that, does it? To them, but as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become the children of God, to those who believe in his name. But it's not saying that he will not give the right to those that do not believe to become the children of God. This is very, very important. This is just good news. There is no bad news here. Yesterday at Bible study, Helena gave an analogy that I thought was very fitting for this. Picture a parent in a pool, and it's one of those summer days, and you're just playing with your kids in the pool, and you as a parent are in the pool, and you're playing. Your child is on the side, and you're telling your child, okay, come on in, jump, and it's not scary. I'm going to catch you. But the children are sometimes afraid to jump in. Oh, I don't know. I'm afraid I'm going to drown. But no, it's okay. I'm going to catch you. And then when they do, it turns out, you catch the child. Oh, of course. So it's a matter of trying to convince your child that you're good. You're okay. You have nothing to worry about. And that's what this is. That's the picture here. God is saying you're good. If you lean into him, he'll catch you. If you don't jump, you're not an offense. The child is not an offense if he doesn't jump. It's just a challenge. God is challenging you to trust him. God is challenging you to lean into his truth that he's telling you that he is good. This is the message of believing. I challenge you to let go of any notion that says that you might not be okay with God. And it's not in your letting go that you're okay with him. You are okay with him. But just taste and see that the Lord is good. Same message. Taste and see. It's not don't taste and then the Lord is not good. Just taste and see and he is good. And then you will know that he is good. It's good for you to let go of your fears. And just keep reading here. In verse 14 it says, "And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth." This is so good. So Jesus comes and he is this idea that God has, and he comes and he is the light. And then it's almost like this is coming from somebody that got to the point where they allowed themselves to be revealed, and the light shines on them, and they're no longer ashamed or afraid of what will be revealed when the light shines on them. And the result is they say, "And we beheld his glory, the glory of God, the begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth." So to bring my point across there, I'll just keep reading here. And of his fullness we have all received, and grace for grace. For the law was given through Moses, but grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, he has declared him. Okay, so when you finally recognize the light and you step out of the shadow and you're looking at it, and you're just being revealed, or even you could use the word exposed, and you realize that, as in this previous verse it says that the glory of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. This was the light, that you realize that the light was grace and truth. And then when you think about this for a second, the law was given through Moses. For the law was given through Moses. So the anticipation initially, while you were in the dark, there was this anticipation that the law was given from God. But now they're coming into the light and they're realizing a new truth that says his glory is grace and truth, and all received. Because the law was actually given through Moses. It wasn't given. So the issue that we face, or that God faces, is that mankind is under a false impression about who he is and what he is like when he comes to earth. It's just like the Israelites that were afraid to go up to the mountain. They had an anticipation, and their anticipation was the fire of God would consume them. It would disintegrate them. It would destroy them. But the reality was that the fire of God is good. We think of even the fires of God being eternal damnation of sorts, eternal torment. But the fires of God are actually His all-consuming love that does do something. It does affect us, but it burns off the chaff, and it burns off all the wood, hay, and stubble in our lives that are lies, the things that are false, the things that are not real, the things that are not good. And all that's left after you've leaned into the fire of God, which you are anticipating is condemnation, when you lean in, it sets you free from the thing that you're afraid that you're going to be condemned for. But grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. And John 18. So we talk a lot about union and how Jesus coming to the incarnation of Jesus Christ is our union with Him, and how we are so intertwined with Him that like we don't know where the head or the tail is. Like we are one with Him. We are through and through with Him. And one of the things that I hoped to bring across today was actually where or magnify exactly where He is one with us, even though we've already been really talking about a complete oneness. And John 18:3 and 4 is an analogy I wanted to use to bring this across a little bit. It says that, "Then Judas, having received a detachment of troops and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees, came there with lanterns and torches and weapons. Jesus, therefore, knowing all things that would come upon him, went forward and said to them, 'Who are you seeking?'" So, in the book of John, you really get a picture of the incarnation and what it means. What does the incarnation really mean? What is the big deal? Like, what happened? This, I think, really zeroes in on like the climax of that incarnation. So to get this picture here of what was happening when Jesus was betrayed, was Judas comes and he has a detachment, which is in the Greek it says cohort, and that word is a term that's used by the Romans there, meant a troop of 600 soldiers. So you get this picture of like there's a huge group of offense against Jesus, and you have such great like for some reason I'm just picturing that thing in Ottawa, and what I was picturing was when the troops were coming, like, wow, that is very threatening. The way they come with their shields and they're very serious. This is very threatening. They are very, very serious right now, and that's the picture here too. When the cohort of troops and officers, and I don't know what the total number would be, because that's just the Roman soldiers that were there, and then they have the temple guards too. I don't know how many there would have been from them. So it's a very threatening scene coming towards Jesus, and that to me displays very much offense, like very much rejection towards Jesus. And then through this rejection and offense towards him, it says that knowing all things that would come upon him, Jesus went forward. There's another place where it says that nobody can take my life. I give it up of my own accord. So he sees this offense that's directed to him, this rejection, and he walks into it. And I just wanted to give this as a picture of where Jesus decided to go. We often have a general vision or idea of what it means for Jesus to come and live in our lives, and he's there generally, but Jesus is very specific, and he comes and he looks at you, and I see this picture of the woman at the well. I think that's another really good example of what Jesus is like and where he's headed. And he sees us, and he wants to not only be with you generally, but he looks at you and he sees your deepest rejection, and he says, "That's where I'm going to go. That's where I want to pitch my tent. The thing that you would consider your greatest weakness is where he decides to go and make his inauguration complete, if you will." And in 2 Corinthians 12:9 it says this, "But he answered me, my grace is always more than enough for you, and my power finds its full expression through your weakness. So I will celebrate my weakness, for when I am weak, I sense more deeply the mighty power of Christ living in me." So when we think of weakness in this context here, and we're familiar with the concept of God manifesting himself more clearly in and through our weaknesses, like Paul here, what do you think when you think weaknesses? What are we talking about when we think of our weaknesses? Any thoughts, or what are your immediate thoughts about that?
Anything that doesn't line up with who God says we are.
Okay. Yeah, weakness. Yeah, I have here that weakness could be anything, literally anything that would otherwise disqualify. A pretty general definition that I came up with. Our weakness could be interpreted in many different ways. Like, weaknesses could be things that would disqualify us in that whatever situation that we would be in. With it being, I'm just thinking of it being Mother's Day. I know there's a lot of reason for women to consider their gender to be their weakness, and there's even references in Scripture where it refers to women being the weaker vessel, and you could consider that a weakness, and how we tend to. It's interesting because the church will disqualify women a lot of times for a lot of things based on their gender, and I saw a post not too long ago of this guy in a nice dressy outfit. He's got a suit and tie on, and he's very proper and formal looking, and he's holding this big sign that says, "We do not allow women to preach or teach." And he's and I thought, like, it was his way of making a stand, like they were going to uphold Scripture somehow. Oh, that was disgusting to me. I thought, seriously, you're going to disqualify so harshly somebody based on their gender? And that is actually a weakness that you could categorize here, that where it's the exact opposite, and Jesus moves into that place that you identify as your weakness, the thing that you identify as your weakness. That's where he moves in, and he shows himself strongest in those places. And it could be anything. It's not just that. It could be physical. Like, if you have a physical condition and you consider yourself disqualified for a lot of things because you're not strong enough. That's where Jesus decides to pitch his tent. And I could go even further and say, And to also fall in line with this definition here, that anything that would otherwise disqualify. And you would think, what about my issues? What about the things that I would rather keep hidden? What about the things that I would rather keep in the dark? I don't want anybody to know about that. That is where, like in this John 18, where in Jesus, knowing all things, he says, went forward. And that's where he decides to make his primary residence. And I'm just thinking about the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman. I get this picture of this. When Jesus goes, and we're all familiar with this story, how he goes intentionally through Samaria and he sees this woman at the well and he asks for a drink of water, and she says, why are you asking me for a drink? This is very inappropriate. I am very, very disqualified to give you a drink. You, for so many reasons, right? You're a Jew, you're a man, I'm a woman, I'm a Samaritan woman. And then Jesus goes on and actually prods even further, and he goes, and he points out all the things that you would assume that she would rather keep hidden. Like the fact that she is not married, but she had had 5 different men before already, and it's interesting what we see here based on the response that she has, that she is not hiding or offended or retaliating. She's actually happy. So I love this, how God, being the light of the world and exposes all things, puts you into the light, and there's nothing hidden. And we get this picture of the final judgment, how there's going to be like this big screen and a recording of your life, and it's going to play there, and it's going to be very embarrassing. Everybody's going to know everything. But Jesus comes and he does know everything. And he tells you, I actually know all of that. I know that about you. And I want to live there. There's no rejection. There's no condemnation. And that's the message, that for God did not send his Son to condemn the world. But we think he did. Everybody thinks he did. We wouldn't say, but that's actually the issue. The issue is thinking that he sent his Son to condemn the world. Deep down, we have this fear. And then this woman at the well, she has the light. The light come to her. Jesus is that light, and he shines everything. Like everything is out in the open. And she realizes that she was afraid for nothing. And then she goes back to her town, and she's like this great witness, and she has like a huge movement happen in her town because of her, and there's no indication that she is in any way cowering. But the result of Jesus showing himself and showing herself and everything in its true form was good. So, to those that do not believe, there's good news for you. There's good news, and we can be in the business of spreading that light that people are afraid of, and we can reassure them. We can be like John the Baptist, who was not that light, but he was sent to be a witness of that light. And he says, make straight the way of that light that is coming. He is the true light. And then we can be the John the Baptist to people that are cowering in the dark and afraid, and we're preparing them. It's okay. Walk into the light, if you will. That's not somebody dying, but we're all But we don't have to be afraid of the light, and we have this hope. I have this hope for everyone. I have this hope for the unbelievers. They do not have to be afraid because they are afraid, it says, because their deeds were evil. But they don't need to be afraid because Jesus isn't coming to condemn. And he's showing us who we are. And why are the deeds evil anyway? Those that are in the dark, those that are not believing, why are their deeds evil? It's because they're not in the light. It's it's the solution to the problem that they're trying to contain. And I just think that's so good. I think that's good for me. Even for me, if I'm in a place where I have complete confidence in God being good with me and I'm okay, but now all of a sudden I'm good with you too. I'm good with the one that's rejecting. I'm good with the cohort of soldiers coming out in rejection. We think, but God would never violate your will. You can decide to reject him. You have the right to go and be damned. You have that right. But seriously, who wants to? Do you know anybody that actually wants to? And I don't think there is anybody that wants to. And God the Father is the good Father of the brother of the prodigal son who waits outside the party, and he's upset. And the good Father comes and he says, "Come on in. You don't have any reason to be upset. Rejoice with your brother. Don't miss out on the party. We have a Father that is concerned about the one sheep that's missing in the 100-fold, and he's never okay with one of us not being there. He's always out to get the last of us in." Just want to read one more passage here in Hebrews 4, verse 14 through 16. It says, "So then we must cling in faith to all we know to be true, for we have a magnificent King Priest, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, who rose into the heavenly realm for us and now sympathizes with us in our frailty. And he understands humanity, for as a man our magnificent King Priest was tempted in every way, just as we are, and conquered sin. So now we draw near freely and boldly to where grace is enthroned, and receive mercy's kiss, and discover the grace we urgently need to strengthen us in our time of weakness." And I just thought that was neat how it says that he sympathizes with us in our frailty, and it's in our frailty, in our weakness, that's where he's living, because that's where he decided to make his home, is in our very weakness. That's not the room that is not liked very much. That's not the part of you that he doesn't like very much. The part of you that is weak, is unqualifiable, is his place where he decides to work out of. That's his office. I think that's pretty amazing. And so Johnny, if you wanted to close with another song, I think, and